Good morning, friends. Pastor Chuck Blair here, and great to have you join us this morning. And today we have such an interesting one to look at. It just is part of the human condition, and we're going to look at it. We're going to look what happens when anger gets the better of us, because that's where the story takes a turn right now. So, the story, for those of you who don't know, we've been working our way through Genesis, the ancient, beautiful story of Adam and Eve, the creation story, Garden of Eden. They get booted out of the garden. They have two kids, Cain and Abel, and these kids start fighting. One of them represents, our intellect, our faith in a religious sense, but it's just faith in terms of knowledge. You could look at it as just a purely doctrinal position, like only concerned about just the facts, man. That's it. And the other part is this heart piece. And this heart piece actually is the most significant piece. It's not that one is bad and one is good, is that we need both, but they need to be put in the right relationship. And the right relationship, if you're talking purely religious perspective, is that doctrine has to help us serve. Doctrine is not there just to be a standalone thing. It's to help us to serve. And how does that look like in your life? Well, just think of anywhere where we get confused that knowledge is the full thing, that just knowing it versus knowing it and doing it. Where does that show up for you? Could show up any number of places. So today, what we're looking at is a fascinating passage. So Cain and Abel, one offering these fruits of the ground, the other offering these beautiful animals. The animals representing what we love. And that's where we pick up the story today, Genesis 4, chapter 5. But Cain and his offering, and these were the offerings of the ground, what was grown, not what was born. Let me pick that up again. But Cain and his offering God ignored, and anger kindled strongly in Cain, and his face fell. So here's this intellectual offering, just of pure doctrine, if you're looking at it from a religious sense. And here's God kind of ignoring it, going like, okay. Now, that's a pretty consistent theme, actually, in the new church. It's interesting, we hold that, when we pass, the biggest thing that angels want to hear about is what life we lived, not what doctrine we believed. That's a key tenet. So there's not like a checklist of doctrinal statements per se. I mean, we do have those as a denomination. We just don't believe those are the way it's the only way to get into heaven. Heaven's really about a life of useful service and that continuing on to eternity, and God breathing more and more life into that. Now it's interesting with anger, with how anger can work, because when we get angry, there's a fascinating passage here where Swedenborg says, with anger is a generalized emotion, our reaction to everything when our love of self is somehow stymied. Isn't that interesting, folks? Just think for a minute about the times you've been really angry, and notice how it becomes this globalized emotion. Like when we're angry, yep, granted, it can be at one thing, but it colors our whole life. I mean, isn't it interesting? When people get angry, they break things. In old movies, they'd have them breaking dishes and stuff. So that anger lashes out and it starts just breaking stuff. And it breaks all kinds of things accidentally. And sometimes people get hurt and all of that. That's the danger of anger. Now, a couple of thoughts with that. One is, anger only wants to be angry. I can't say that strongly enough. That's so true. Like negative emotions just want to be the negative emotion. Anger only wants to be angry. Anxiety only wants to be anxious. And we tend to think like, well, I'll just counter it. Well, it's awfully hard to counter because all anger is going to look for is things to be angry about. As one person said this morning, I was getting coffee down at Wawa. A friend this morning who I saw there said, "Yeah, you know what? I'm trying to stop, but I find myself addicted to outrage." What a great phrase! Addicted to outrage. That's the nature of anger. It can become deeply addicting. It can become a pleasurable in some weird way. The pleasure of pure insanity, by the way, but it can become pleasurable, and it just kind of paints the whole world with that one brush. And then once that happens, all we're doing is sorting the world into who's in, who's out, who's in, who's out. Such garbage, and we all do that. And folks, I want you to understand this has real impact, as somebody who's wrestled a large part of their life with anger, it has a big impact, and it can really hurt. It hurts us, it hurts other people, and we have to be super careful about it because it gets so overwrought. It doesn't just focus, it tends to paint the whole world. So, folks, we're going to move on next week into terms of the implications of this, and some of them are really sad. And there'll be some good news in that too. Like, how do we continue to work through that? We know God's going to walk with us even in that. That this is in the story because it's part of our story. It's not like there's not a divergence here. This is what we do. We all battle anger in some way, shape, or form. Or I imagine most people battle in some way, shape, or form. So, what's that battle for you this weekend? What's that battle for you, and how do you plan to sort of address it as best you can? I would coach you on this, folks. Like anytime we have something we want and we move towards it and we don't get what we want, we find ourselves angry. We can get a good sense that our ego is what really wanted that thing. It wasn't wanted to serve. It wasn't wanted for other people. It was just wanted for us. And so when you see that, what would I coach us all on this weekend? Just this little mantra. Remember, anger only wants to be angry. Anger only wants to be angry. And just say that a number of times. And I hope, knock on wood, you'll start to see how hell can just get a grip on us and can just start making everything look a certain way. And when we start to get clear, I think so much of the spiritual life is recognition. Just simply recognizing it allows God to do God's best work. My guess is once you start being clear, like, oh yeah, that's right. Reminder, anger only wants to be angry. We'll start to get a different set of eyes, a softer set of eyes, as the Japanese word akimbo coaches us to do. And with those softer eyes, we'll start to see the world very differently. So, folks, may you have a weekend with as little anger as possible. There's the wish. There's the wish ahead for you. And especially if you are addicted to outrage, may you break that addiction at least for an hour sometime this weekend, my friends. All right. Well, great to be joining with you. Now, what we're going to do for those of you joining us the first time, we do a little meditation part here. So what we're going to do is a little meditation, a little prayer, and then a little blessing, and then we'll say hi to folks. We broadcast this on a number of social media platforms, and so anyways, we'll be saying hi on those social media platforms. All right, friends, let's get a little breath. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, friends, wishing you all the very best. May you have an amazing, terrific, anger-free, joy-filled weekend ahead. Take care, friends. We'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.